Yeah. I my first time checking it in, sadly, back in 2009, I rated it a 2.75, and I said it was overhyped.
Maybe your attitude has changed.
I didn't know back then. I didn't know. I would give it a solid 4 right now. So,
inspired by the adventures of our nurses, therapists, and techs, A Beer with Atlas is the only healthcare traveling, craft beer drinking podcast. Each week, we'll open a few beers, talk about the brewery and the style of beer, and then dive into some research curated specifically for each episode. In the end, we hope each one sounds like a conversation you'd have with your friends while enjoying a few cold ones.
welcome to a better than last week's episode of A Beer with Atlas. I'm Rich.
And I'm not sure about that.
I have no opinion.
Well, it is IPA heavy, so that's good.
There we go. So instead of talking about a St. Louis brewery, we're talking about a Chicago brewery this week. And so no tie back to baseball besides the fact that they're in Chicago and they sell a form of this beer, which I think one of us has.
I think it's me.
At Wrigley Field. Brian, you have that one?
Yeah, I got it.
Revolution Brewing, one of the, I think it's safe to say, one of the most popular, probably widely recognized IPAs in the Midwest is a beer called AntiHero. I think that's a fair statement, isn't it?
I think so, yeah. I mean, it's one of the ones that, as far as mid-level size, it's not like a, macro craft brewery, and it's not one of the tiny little one that makes juice pants, for instance.
Yeah.
It's got notoriety, and they make, as far as I know, everything that's comes out of there is pretty on point. So
yeah. So Revolution Brewing is located at 3340 Kedzie Ave in Chicago. For those of you Chicagoites or people that are familiar with Chicago, it's the Blue Line stop, Belmont. So
there you go.
Those are important things to remember, right? I mean, blue line, red line, yellow line. Like, you got to know where you at, where you're going.
Yeah, that's very important. Do you have time for a story?
Absolutely.
Okay, so one time, this was about 2 weeks after I got married, I had to go to Illinois, Bloomington, for training when I worked at State Farm. And I was there for 2 weeks in a hotel room. And on the weekend, me and my buddy who was there with me, we decided, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go to a game. Cubs are out. They were on the road, so we had to go see the White Sox.
Yeah.
And it was an interleague game, which was back when they just did those every once in a while. And it was the White Sox and Astros, which was a World Series rematch. So this story can be tracked down that way. So this was the first time they had played since the World Series the year before. I was at the game, probably the most hungover I've ever been in my entire life. Like, I literally wanted to die. We were in the upper level of, I don't know what that stadium's called, U.S. Cellular Field at the time, directly behind home plate. So we had good seats, but we were up high on like the third tier.
Yeah.
And we went to the game. That was terrible. I got a sunburn. I sweated out like pitchers and pitchers and pitchers of beer from the night before. The White Sox won. Paul Konerko hit a big home run. We get on the train to head back to where our car is, which was a long way. It was by Midway. Is it the airport?
Yeah.
Okay, so we parked there in that area. And apparently we weren't paying attention. We didn't know what we were doing. We went the wrong way. So we're in South Chicago. And we get to the I'm talking very last stop of the train. And this older fellow sitting next to us, he looks over at me and my friend John. And we're white as skeletons, except for the sunburn that I had on my face.
Sure.
And he said, "You fellers are going to want to get off here and go back the other way." And I was like, "Okay, thank you." And we did, and we made it, and it was fine. But I got a sunburn, and I got lost on the train in Chicago.
It's easy. If you've been on the L, man, it's easy. It's confusing.
Yeah.
It's so many stops. And if it's one of those things, like, if you don't live there, the people that live there know.
Yeah.
and they're moving, right? It's just on, off, get on, get off, or whatever. They got no time for tourists. They got no time.
Oh, no. Yeah.
No.
Don't ask a question.
No.
Don't look at them. Don't look at anybody that's on the train.
No,
They're
right.
not going to talk to you.
No.
I was from a farm at this point, like, dude, I can barely drive on the interstate in Omaha. Like, I'm not built for trains that go fast in directions I don't know. It wasn't for me.
Yeah. Props to that dude for helping you.
Yeah.
Right.
Big ups for him. That was great.
Yeah.
Saved our weekend.
Yeah. It's easy to get lost. Or there's like, depending on what part of Chicago you're in, sometimes you have to take a bus to get to the train, or sometimes you have to take the train to get to a bus to get to where you're going.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Super confusing. So, but yeah, luckily now with technology, it's all on
a lot easier. Or what I would do now, I would just get an Uber, pay like $100 and be like,
take me there. Right. Exactly. Oh, you could take the L for $5.
Nope.
No,
I'm not good at that.
Just take me there.
Crowds, anxiety. It's just public transport is not for me.
Yeah. So Revolution Brewing was started as a brew pub 10 years ago, 2010, by owner Josh Death, D-E-T-H, not D-E-A-T-H.
That'd be cooler.
Not like Death.
Yeah.
Death. Death. Maybe it's Death. I don't know.
We're going to go with Death.
Go with Death. Death attended the University of Michigan. Gross. But then became interested in brewing from his frequent trips to Bell's. So he would go to Bell's
Brewery, yeah.
And he worked at Goose Island for a while, which I think that actually came up when we talked about Goose, a few episodes back. He worked at Goose Island and connected with the head brewmaster Jim Seabach, C-I-B-A-K.
Okay.
Seabach. Yeah. During his time there, that guy worked at a number of brewers, including Three Floyds.
Which I think is closed now.
Three Floyds closed?
I think so. I think I read that they closed for good.
What?
Yeah, I think that's what due to the COVID stuff. I think I read that they weren't going to open.
They're not coming back.
That's what I heard.
I'm going to look this up right now because this is Three Floyds Brewing. Because I wasn't a big fan of some of their beers, but I never want to see anybody close.
Which is in, I think, Muncie, Indiana.
Yeah.
So they had the kind of IPAs that I like, which is why I'm interested in them, and which is probably down the road of what I've got in this can here, the AntiHero, which has got IBUs like 65, 70. So there's some bitterness to it. They had at least at Three Floyds, they kind of known for their stout. They have that. They have what is it called? Dark Lord Day, I think it's called. That's a big beer there, but it's one of the more sought after craft breweries in the Midwest that doesn't really distribute. So
I hope that isn't true, man. I hope that isn't true.
Yeah.
I pulled up an article from May 2020. Three Floyds Brew Pub to remain closed after COVID restrictions lift. Oh, okay. So they're still open for curbside. They're just not opening up, even though the COVID stuff. Yeah, even though they can, they're staying closed.
Okay.
They're saying that they're going to open up sometime in 2021.
Oh, geez, a whole year.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a long time.
It is a long time. Geez.
Because you want, especially in a brewery that has food, you want people to come inside.
Yeah.
And like order and order and order and order.
Right. So
interesting.
Revolution is Illinois' largest independent craft brewer. And I guess Kedzie, 33rd and Kedzie, 3340 Kedzie Ave is heart of Chicago, like right in the middle of downtown. Like couldn't be any more. I've never been there. I've drank a lot of their beers in Chicago, though. So these beers come courtesy of Paul Ernat, who is Diane Ernat's husband. Diane is the director of logistics here at Atlas. He was driving through. His daughter goes to college in Ohio, Indiana, one of those states that's off to the east of Illinois. Yeah. So he's driving through, and I got a text at like 9:00 one night, and he's like, "Hey," it was almost 9. It was like 8:45. It's like, "Hey, there's this big liquor store big liquor store, like the size of a Walmart here in Illinois. What do you want? Do you want something? Because this place is huge, and they said they have everything. Yeah. And I made him a list, and I said, if you can get – I haven't had AntiHero in a while, and he brought us a mixed 12-pack of AntiHero. So I have the Sly Hero.
Oh, that's cool artwork.
Yeah, you like that?
Kind of reminds me of what's that, Mr. Computer or whatever show?
Mr. iRobot.
Yeah, iRobot. That's the one.
Yeah. Very. Look, his head is the hops. Look, his face is the hops.
So that's what I have in mind too. Is
this
guy AntiHero? His face, kind of like an Eisenhower sort of style picture, but his head is the hop, which is still something I want to get a tattoo. I still need a hop tattoo.
We're working on that.
I'm still working on that.
Okay. All right. Then Dolan has Galaxy-Hero, which I was specific for him. I know he likes hazy IPAs.
Is that in a spacesuit, Dolan?
Yeah.
Looks like it.
Nice. He doesn't. Oh yeah, there we go.
He doesn't have any,
Can't
bubble,
breathe, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah.
So
we each have 3 different beers out of the mixed 12-pack of. So you get the 3, like we've seen with other brewers do before. Like they put their standard, which is in this case it's AntiHero, and then they put others, some of the adjuncts or whatever, where they do different styles. So this one, Dolan actually looked this up. Sly Hero is made with Styrian box hops.
Dolan, Styrian box hops.
Yeah, what was that?
So Styria is a federal state of Austria. So I'm wondering if the hops came from there.
Brian, I have a feeling you would love this.
Oh, really?
This is, if you can tell from the color.
Yeah, it looks a little maltier.
It's way maltier. There's bitterness that lasts all the way through, but not like Jack in the mouth bitter, but really good, nice sweet bitterness.
Then my guess is that Dolan's right, because that sounds like a European style beer.
Yep.
A little bit more malty.
Very.
Yep, I just looked at it. The Styrian hops, they're grown primarily in Slovenia and neighboring southern Austrian province of Styria.
There you go.
That's where you get it.
They must have a connection somehow. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I've got the Distill Brewery glass. Chicago or Illinois, I guess.
Illinois, good call, Dolan.
Yeah.
Man, he's smart. Look at that.
2 hours maybe from Chicago in Bloomington.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I figured as I was kind of doling these out, this was Brian would go with the traditional. I'm gonna go with one that I wasn't sure about, that may be a little bitter, that I need to learn more about, and then with Dolan, give him the Galaxy one because I know it's going to be hazy and I know that's his style. Right?
Oh yeah, and it's hazy. You can't see. It's
got that looks good.
Little floaties in there.
Oh yeah, which we've learned that means it's good.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that smells hoppy. That smells like a standard IPA that I when I first started doing this 8-10 years ago. That's what it smells like.
Mm-hmm. It is, as IPAs go, like at first I did not like it. Did not. And now that is a standard when I go to Chicago.
Yeah. That's so good.
Yeah. These guys do a great job. They've been around, like I said, they've been around for 10 years. They kind of know what they're doing, kind of.
I would think you'd have to be the biggest one in Chicago or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, there's some people that are also making beer there too. So,
so this one is, I assume it's Galaxy-Hero for Galaxy hops.
Yes.
Because it tastes like fruit salad, like pineapple and.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, it's tropical punch IPA is what I get from it. It's dry though. It's good.
Speaking of which, shouldn't we be getting back in? It's about the season for some Brut IPAs. Do you think that's going to come back this summer?
I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I'm sure somebody will be making them. I haven't seen anything on social media too much about hey, we just finished this Brut IPA boil or whatever, but it's very possible. I mean, I think some people make them all the time now. So we'll see.
That was one of the shortest fads of beer fads of all time.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see.
And you loved it.
I loved it. I love that style. Yeah, that was so one-hit wonder-ish, I guess, if that's the case. But man, yeah, I do love that style. But yeah, something for everyone here, especially with and there were 2 or 3 other different variations of AntiHero in there too. We're just trying these 3.
Oh, really? Okay. Mm-hmm. That's a really mixed pack.
Really, really mixed 12-pack. Yeah. So, Brian, what research did you get into? Because then I will.
I have. I based my research off something that I thought we could talk about, especially you. I always like to. One of my favorite things to do, honestly, is to listen to people talk about things they're passionate about. I think that's like, I don't know, it's one of my favorite things. Is just to hear somebody and watch them speak about something that they really care about. So I designed my research based on that today, based on the name AntiHero. So we're going to get into the theme of AntiHeroes, especially how they play into comics.
Yes.
Like a huge thing in the comic world. So because this is the flagship beer, their IPA, it's basically the beer they're known for. And then, like a lot of places, they have a lot of other different kinds of beer too, but this is their big, I would guess this is their number 1 selling beer. I have the definition of what an anti-hero is. So an anti-hero, quote, is a main character who lacks conventional heroic qualities. Anti-heroes may perform heroic actions, but for the wrong reasons. Usually for the wrong reasons, like selfishly, acting out of self-interest or in ways that defy ethical codes. So they might do the right thing, but for the wrong reason or on accident, whatever. So they're not like always good, altruistic. They're not doing it for the people. They're usually saving somebody or stopping the bank robbery or whatever they're going to do in a story or a movie because it's something that they need to do for some personal reason. So that's what an anti-hero is. So what I have is just a couple of them that are things or genres that really embody this thing, I guess, that an anti-hero is. One of them, the first one that I could think of, and something that I did a little bit of research on this morning, real quick, was Huckleberry Finn. So I was a big Mark Twain guy. I still am, I guess. Took a couple of Mark Twain classes in college, and they call Huckleberry Finn the first anti-hero of the American nursery because they were, kids' books, basically, but he was bad kid, kind of ran away and did a bunch of stuff, but ended up doing the right thing when it came down to it. The Beat generation. So we're talking mid 50s to early 60s. There was a movement called the Beats, which was a lot of poetry and movie making, songwriting. Jack Kerouac is the best example of that, probably. Or Ginsberg is another name that people might have heard. A lot of their stories and characters are anti-heroes. Spaghetti westerns, which were popular late 60s into the 70s, which is a huge thing with Quentin Tarantino as well. Like he has always talked about his love of those. So those people are basically somebody comes into town and has to save the town, for whatever reason, and they don't either want to or they reluctantly are, or I'll save the town because somebody I like lives in the town, that sort of stuff. That's usually a spaghetti western. And then recently, there's been an explosion of content with anti-heroes, especially on TV. So I wrote down a list of the most popular shows that feature characters that are anti-heroes. And that starts basically with HBO and AMC. So we've got The Sopranos, Mad Men, Breaking Bad, Empire, and Game of Thrones. So those are all some of the most popular shows in the last 20 years, or critically acclaimed shows featuring characters who aren't real great people, but sometimes do the right thing, I guess is the best way I can phrase that.
Could you throw Rick Grimes into that mix from The Walking Dead? Do you think he's an anti-hero?
I don't think he would be, but I think maybe Shane could be from the same first couple seasons.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Because I always feel like Rick is trying to do the best thing for everybody, not just him.
I have a list of top 10 comic book anti-heroes and top 20 anti-heroes in movie history. You can agree or disagree, but I'll start off with the movie ones. You guys are going to know a lot more of these.
Are you saying they're old?
No, I'm saying I'm not a movie buff. How about that?
Okay.
So at number 20, they have Lou Bloom for Nightcrawler. Don't know if you've that.
Oh, the one where he
Jake
would
Gyllenhaal movie.
He would listen on the police scanner, and then he would go.
Yes, Jake Gyllenhaal.
Jake Gyllenhaal, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then the movie Driver, the Drive, Ryan Gosling, that one, the main character there. That's number 19. Number 18 is Ode Sue, Old Boy. Never heard of that one.
No,
never seen it.
Patrick Bateman, American Psycho.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is he an anti-hero? I don't know.
Well, he certainly wasn't a regular hero, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, he's just a bad dude. I think.
I mean, would that
liked really good music.
Like along the same lines as like maybe Dexter, maybe.
They're saying he was just greedy and psychotic, but
okay.
Well, he did hack people up with an axe, but whatever.
Yeah.
Leon from The Professional.
Oh,
he was a hitman.
Oh my!
Natalie Portman's first movie.
Oh yeah. The Professional is such a great film.
Yeah, it still holds up too, pretty well.
Oh, it's so good. And there's so few actors in it. It's so just driven, like character driven.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh gosh, it was so good. Yep.
So number 15, Mad Max, The Road Warrior.
Yeah, I'll buy that.
I could see that.
14, they're saying Rambo, First Blood.
I'll disagree because I've never seen a single Rambo movie, so that's.
I have seen bits and parts of Rambo movies. My, my mom was into the Rambo movies. I don't know why, but she was.
Shirtless Sly would be why for me.
I guess.
Yeah, probably. Brian, I gotta tell you, you gotta at least watch one of them. At least watch.
I'll watch the most recent one. How about that?
First Blood. No. No. I mean, because part of it's just like the sheer ridiculousness of Rambo, the character.
He had a big old Bowie knife, didn't he? I remember
big Bowie knife, never runs out of bullets, always is, hiding in the right place, getting out of shit that he shouldn't be getting out of.
Yeah.
I do remember a scene where he was running out of the woods to get saved by a helicopter. They came back. He got left somewhere stranded or whatever. The helicopter was there to save him. Yeah. Running out of the woods, and he kills maybe 100 people and dodges maybe 1 million bullets.
Sure.
I don't know.
And he's like carrying like a 50 caliber at the same time. It's like he never runs out of bullets. There's a scene where they have him hooked up to an old box spring.
Oh, I've seen that. Yeah.
Right? Where they're just
I've seen that clip.
Him or whatever. Normal people would die from this. Come on. All right. Please continue.
Number 13, William D. Fenn's Foster from Falling Down.
Oh, I love that movie.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. He's not an anti-hero. He's just a dude that snapped. He's bad. He's not doing anything good. He's not doing anything good. He's just destructing.
Yeah.
There's no goal. He just tears up the place and tries to kill a bunch of people.
They say the reason he's an anti-hero is because he has his own brand of vigilante justice.
No, not buying it.
All right.
But okay, I love that movie though. That's a great Michael Douglas movie.
Yep.
Me and my friends still quote it to this day, but he's not an anti. I don't think so.
So good.
Yep. So Mark Zuckerberg, The Social Network, that movie. That's at number 12. Number 11, Tony Montana, Scarface.
They're remaking Scarface right now, actually.
That's a horrible idea. They should never.
They are.
Do that. Scarface itself really wasn't. If you go back and watch it now, it doesn't hold up real well.
Michelle Pfeiffer holds up.
Yes, she does.
Yes.
That's 100% true. But just the movie in general, I don't know. Yeah.
Number 10. So now we're in the top 10. 10 is Salieri and Amadeus.
Oh, Amadeus,
Amadeus.
86 or something like that, was it? 1986, 87, somewhere in there.
Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart.
Yeah, Mozart. Yeah.
Mozart.
Good movie. I think it won an Oscar.
Yep. I haven't seen that one. I'll look at that. Sonny Wurtzik, Dog Day Afternoon.
Oh,
Al Pacino, right?
Al Pacino.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Number 8, Derek Vineyard, American History X. Lots
That's
of
a heavy movie, man.
Swastikas here.
Ooh, very heavy. Yes.
Yeah, that's a dark and heavy movie.
Yep.
Number 7, Daniel Plainview, There Will Be Blood.
Yep.
Never saw it, so I can't say.
Phil Sweeney.
That's his. I drink your milkshake.
Yes. Oh my gosh. hard to watch. Hard to follow. Great story. Should it ever have been a movie? I don't know. I've heard the book is better, but yeah, Phil Sweeney loves that film.
Number 6, Will Money, Unforgiven.
With Clint Eastwood, right?
Yeah, that's his character. Yeah. He won an Oscar for directing that movie.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all about killing gang members and U.S. Marshals. And number 5, McMurphy, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah, Jack Nicholson.
Nicholson.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree with that one. That he seems
100%.
Number 4, Alex Delarge, Clockwork Orange.
He's not a hero of any sort.
It's hard to.
That is a fucked up movie. Let's just go ahead and say it.
Yes.
I watched that at like 22 or 23. I don't know that I could watch it now.
In every way possible. Brian's 100% right.
It says ultra violence under it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Number 3, Travis Bickle, Taxi Driver.
Another De Niro.
Yeah.
I think, You
talking to me?
Jodie Foster's first big movie.
She's like 16, isn't she? Like
maybe 14.
Maybe?
Yeah.
The description nerd is he crazy or is he a hero? We'll leave that question up to you.
That was the guy that inspired Hinckley to shoot president.
Yeah.
And number 2 is Charles Foster Kane, Citizen Kane.
I've seen it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then number 1 is Michael Corleone, The Godfather.
Godfather. Yep.
Yeah, that was on one of mine. Here's some other character names that I pulled out that you didn't talk about, Nolan.
Okay.
That I think we can talk about. These are also in movies for the most part or shows. James Bond came up in my research.
Okay, I can see that.
Pretty accurate because he's usually doing the right thing, but it's usually because of a girl or whatever.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Jason Bourne, sort of the same thing.
Yeah.
Beetlejuice. Don't say it 2 more times. He'll show up, but they had him as an anti-hero in a movie. It's like, I guess I can see that.
Sure.
John McClane. Die Hard.
Yeah.
Because they're always personal motivations in like every movie. He has to save the world, but it's because his wife is kidnapped or his son's in trouble or his daughter's whatever.
Yeah. He's not doing it just because he's altruistic. It's always because of something.
I'll just say his name, but we won't talk about it because I know you didn't watch the show. But Tyrion Lannister from Game of Thrones. Yeah. But this one I want you to talk about because you can. Han Solo.
Yeah, I think yes. I think if there is if you look up anti-hero in the dictionary, there should be a picture of Han Solo. He was did not want to be there, not his thing at all, not a revolutionary, all about the money, just make a buck and get out type of thing. And if it wasn't for a girl, probably wouldn't have stuck around.
Yep. I think you're right on that.
Yeah.
Here's some from TV. This one we can maybe talk about this one. Oscar the Grouch, Sesame Street.
Oh yeah. Yep.
I think that fits. George Costanza from Seinfeld. He's 100% about himself, but sometimes does the right thing. This one was interesting. Kenny Powers.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Because he does kind of do the right thing sometimes, but he does it in the wrongest way possible.
Dolan, are you familiar with Kenny Powers?
I'm not. No.
Oh man, Eastbound and Down. It's
Yeah.
on HBO. If you get a chance to watch that.
Baseball tie-in.
Yeah, it is kind of a baseball show, but it's not about baseball.
No, tie-in. There's a little bit of baseball.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then Peter Griffin / Homer Simpson.
Yeah. Arguably the same character.
Yeah, basically.
Just yeah. One is dumber than
I was thinking that too. I was like, well, I almost feel like Peter Griffin's dumber. But then I was like, well, Homer's been around and been doing dumb stuff for 30 years now. So.
I guess dumb in different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you're right.
I would argue that Homer's dumber than Peter.
Is he?
Peter, I don't know. Peter's done some. I guess they've all done accidental things that turned out to be great. How did Peter end up playing for the Patriots? Just different things like that.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, I feel like Homer is a more I don't know if involved is the right term, dad, but he cares more about his family than Peter. Like, Peter's obviously just openly hostile against Meg, but then he chokes Bart all the time. So I don't know. That's a toss up too.
I can say this because I'm a product of it. Homer is definitely more of an 80s, 90s dad, where Peter is definitely more of maybe a 2000 and current dad.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, this is the part where I need your brain, Rich.
Okay.
So I wrote down just a few from the comics, and that we can talk about, and you can maybe tell me how or why, or let me and Dolan know more about these people, because some of them I know and some of them I don't.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one that I would 100% agree with is Spawn.
Yep. Al Simmons. Yeah. So when I give you a whole backstory on kind of where Spawn came from, with Todd McFarlane leaving Marvel and starting Image Comics. But yeah, Spawn Al Simmons was killed. In a nutshell, Al Simmons dies, goes to hell, becomes the Hell Spawn, comes back to Earth, and it's all about his ex-wife. It's all about his wife, Wanda. And doing bad things for good reason, for Wanda, to make the world a better place, but he's doing the work of Satan in essence. Yes.
And they are currently working on another movie or something?
Another one. Yeah. The one, the original, the Spawn movie wasn't terrible.
Yeah.
It wasn't great either. I mean, I know that's not a ringing endorsement. It was about
one of the first comic book real dark movies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't Howard the Duck.
Yeah.
It was dark.
Spawn's the longest running independent is the longest running comic series by the same creator. Okay. So Todd's been involved for the whole thing, and they're over 300. I think they're at 307 as of right now. I think we're waiting for issue 307.
Wow.
Spawn. So
that
was a big deal. Spawn was a big deal.
How about Constantine?
Yeah, John Constantine is same sort of thing, same kind of thing, but almost in a way darker kind of way. Yeah, okay. I could agree with that.
The Punisher.
Frank Castle. I actually wrote down Frank Castle right here because, Frank Castle. So Castle was he came home from Vietnam vet, trying to make heads or tails of his life, and his family gets caught in the crossfire of a gang war, and his wife and his kid are killed by gangs, and so he picks up the moniker of the Punisher, wearing the skull, and so everything he does is for selfish reasons, but he fights crime. I mean, that's it. He's fighting gangs. Right. So I love the Punisher. I love Frank Castle. I love the story, who he was and how he's become. Here's what's fun about Frank Castle. So you would think Bruce Wayne, Batman, has been around forever, right? He's been around since the 40s. He's somewhat timeless. At one point, Marvel said, you know what? Frank Castle died. He's dead. He aged and he died. He died of old age. And he became the spirit of vengeance, which is the Ghost Rider. So you remember the Ghost?
Yeah. Nicolas Cage movie.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So Ghost Rider was a comic back in the 70s. Actually rode a horse or whatever. They brought it back in the 90s, and he rode the big motorcycle, his flames and shit.
Yep.
Anyway, they brought Frank Castle. Frank Castle's soul was so disturbed, so whatever. They brought him back, and he's the cosmic Ghost Rider now. So he rides in space. And there was a great comic book series about Ghost Rider destroys the Marvel Universe. So he had the ability to jump back in time. So he would go through and he would go back in time and he would mess up timelines of like the Fantastic Four starting and like major things happening to try to right the wrongs of whatever. That's super nerdy, but it was great. Like Frank Castle, his soul was so disturbed they wouldn't let him into either heaven or hell, so they made him he became the spirit of vengeance.
Just go for eternity.
Yep.
So what about the show that's out there now, the John Bernthal or whatever? Is it
okay? So I wish that it had continued. Season 1 was pretty fantastic. It was super violent, but it was a more kind of up-to-date version of the Punisher.
Okay. And more than the Dolph Lundgren or whatever, wasn't that?
Yeah. And then which wasn't, and then even after that, who was the guy after that?
Yeah, they did do another version, didn't they?
Yeah, and I can't remember. Gosh darn it, his name's like right here, and I can't remember his name. Anyway, it wasn't bad. This was just a different take. Okay. Again, based on his family getting killed, and him just taking revenge, and that's all it was. It was 100% about revenge, and that's it.
So that sounds exactly like this next one I have, which is Wolverine. Very popular character, and all those movies, all the X-Men movies, and the Stan Logan movie. Oh gosh. Still one of the best comic movies I've ever seen.
Logan was great. Watch that. I still have not seen that one.
It was as much as it was a Fox. It was kind of Sony's take. If Marvel Studios, Disney had done it, it might have been completely different. But the fun part, it would have been totally different.
Yeah.
The fun part about that though is it was based on a comic called Old Man Logan, and kind of how Logan dies eventually. Because he has a healing factor. So part of the Weapon X project, he has a healing factor. He heals very quickly, so then he doesn't age very quickly. Well, everyone around him is dying, obviously. And what happens when Professor X dies? And that was Patrick Stewart in this. And he was, he was so powerful as a telepath that when he gets dementia, what happens? Yeah. Right? And that was a great take. I think that was probably the redeeming factor of that movie was, if a telepath gets dementia, what happens?
Yeah, that was great. And I really liked the young girl in that movie. She was so good. I saw it 3 times in the theater, and I don't go to the movies. So that should tell you something, I guess.
Who eventually becomes X-23, which is the daughter of Wolverine, which loosely you can go back and you can trace it back to that. But yeah, really good story.
A couple more for you. Deadpool.
Yeah.
Right? Deadpool / Harley Quinn.
2 different completely different characters. Yeah, Wade Wilson is different just because, he is who he is, and that's, slapsticky Deadpool, and he wasn't like that in the beginning. He was not like that in the beginning when he was part of X-Force, when, he was Rob Liefeld, who is a just comic jackass and continues to be a comic jackass, and unfortunately has the credit of creating the character of Deadpool. Like he created him for the first time, maybe drew him. Is not responsible for what Deadpool is now.
Oh, okay.
At all, but he's just the biggest dickhead of all time.
Oh, geez.
In the comic world, he is.
Yeah.
But yeah, Harley is more just kind of a case study in what happens if a doctor goes crazy.
Yeah.
And that's really it. But yeah, the Joker has to go see a psychiatrist, and that's Harley.
But he infects her, kind of, right?
Yeah.
Did you see the Birds of Prey film? What'd you think?
I liked it. Was fine.
Yeah. It was fun to watch.
Yeah, and here's the thing: as much as everyone made fun of the Suicide Squad movie too, and and what 30 Seconds to Mars guy, what's his name?
Jared Leto.
Yep.
Yeah.
Makes fun of his Joker. His Joker is a pretty modern take on that character, and I didn't mind it at all.
I liked his Joker. Everybody was, but Joker is that. Joker was, sadistic, kind of mob leader, not mob leader, but you know what I mean. Exactly what Jared. Modern Joker. Yep.
Yeah. Homicidal maniac, right? I mean, and that's how Jared Leto played him was that.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I wish he would have I would have liked his own standalone before they did the Joker that we know today, the $1 billion, movie that they put out.
Yep.
Last one, and this is one I don't know anything about.
Mm-hmm.
Submariner. Like I don't even know if that's Marvel or DC. I have no idea.
Namor, the Submariner. Yeah,
so that's Aquaman.
He's like he's the Marvel Aquaman.
Okay.
It's weird they listed him as that, but I suppose I could see that. He was, I wouldn't say he was a adversary. He came up through Fantastic Four, kind of that Fantastic Four side of the tree, right?
Okay.
As Marvel goes, like, Avengers, X-Men, Fantastic Four. Submariner came up through that side of the tree or whatever. Had a thing with Sue Richards for a while, as Sue and Reed, Fantastic, Fantastic and the Invisible Woman. He had a thing for her, and I guess, yeah, I could see that.
Okay, yeah, that was the one I was the least familiar with out of the list.
So while we're still on the topic, I can run through the top 10 of all time, and for those of you who are listening to the audio version, I put that in quotes, top 10
air quotes. Yes.
Yeah. So number 10 is John Walker, U.S. agent. Do you know about this guy? He was the guy that was supposed to be Captain America. The next Captain America deemed him too psychotic, and
So when Cap,
a dark take.
Yeah, when Steve Rogers left for a while, and Cap was all in a black suit.
Mm-hmm.
That's yes, the U.S. agent.
Yes, him. Basically, they say like, he was perfect to do agent work because he was just willing to do anything to get the job done. That meant killing people, whatever.
Sure.
Number 9, Watchmen.
Yeah. Did they list anyone, just the Watchmen in general, or they
just said the Watchmen in general?
Okay. Yeah.
Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons. But those are the people. Yeah. Never mind.
Did you watch the show, Rich?
No, I watched the first couple episodes, and then my HBO subscription ran out, and I never went back to it. And it wasn't enough that it was like, what happens after the Watchmen?
Yeah.
The Watchmen, the comic book, was one of those that kind of changed. If I had to go back and point like literary things that changed my life at certain points in my life, Watchmen and The Dark Knight Returns came out about the same time. And that was, and that was actually the tagline, who watches the Watchmen, right? And it's like when the world was so bad and even the superheroes were, kind of, right?
Yeah. I think it's interesting that if you go to a comic shop now, you can still buy that. You know what I mean? Like it's still in print all the time.
And I would highly suggest it too, because it was probably, as much as Alan Moore has gone batshit crazy, it's totally worth reading.
Yeah, I agree. I have read. That's one of the ones I have read. So,
so 8, 7, and 6 we've already talked about. 8 is Wolverine, 7 Spawn, and 6 is Deadpool.
All right.
Okay.
And then number 5 is Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're doing good for not the wrong reasons, but they're selfish reasons, right?
Selfish reasons. If they don't do good, they'll be killed.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, Amanda Waller was like, you do this or we're going to kill you.
Yeah.
Well, and I get the sense through the whole thing is like they were doing good, right, because they were doing good because they were forced to. They didn't want to.
Yeah.
And so they kind of did it they did good in a sadistic way. Is that the right term I'm looking for?
In a self-preservation sort of way.
Yeah. Number 4, Thunderbolts. It's a Marvel thing.
More recent, yes. Yep.
Never heard of them. 3, Venom.
Yeah. Okay.
That was a big sigh there.
Yeesh, that's tough because okay, I'll buy it. Now without nerding out too much, there's this new
No,
character.
go ahead, nerd out.
I think we just lost all of our listeners here. They're just like, turn it off, click. I'm gonna listen to This American Life now. There's this new character named Null, which is like from a planet where the symbiote came from, where before the symbiote even like was the costume in the suit in the Secret Wars that Spider-Man picked up. It was from way back then. So I guess.
But not number 3. Is that what you said, Dolan? He's number 3 on the list?
Yeah, he's number 3 on the list.
I would put him
like not on the top 10.
Well, maybe. I mean, I buy him as like 10.
Okay.
Sure.
Number 2, Catwoman.
I had her on my list, but I left her off. But here,
Selena Kyle, Catwoman. Yes.
Yeah. Selena Kyle is the one that they're talking about.
Okay. Yep.
And then number 1, of course, is the main anti-hero comic, Punisher.
Frank Castle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. Would you say, and this isn't comic books at all, but Brian, you brought it up with the spaghetti westerns a little bit. Mm-hmm. Would you say Doc Holliday would be a anti-hero?
Yeah. I mean, he was a sheriff, right?
Not by his choice. It was just
Correct.
because that his best friend was.
He, I think we did in the research somewhere. He like stopped a murder or caught a murderer and got him hung, but it was like because he killed his friend or something like in a poker game. So it wasn't like he was doing it because it was against the law. It was like, oh, you killed my buddy and
right.
Now I'm gonna get you.
I don't think Doc either in literature or in real life was ever that good of a soul
guy.
Yeah. I don't think so.
I think it'd be hard back then, especially if you're a lawman at the time, right? Mm-hmm. And you're the boss. The power is corrosive, and there's no one to watch or check your power except somebody from another town, further away or whatever. Like, you're probably gonna do things that you shouldn't be doing. Is my guess. I don't know, but
that sounds like Doc Holliday to me.
Yeah, I mean that's all those spaghetti westerns for sure, and pretty much anything Clint Eastwood's ever made. Honestly,
pretty much. Yep.
So I'm gonna hard pivot from this to talk about Revolution, because that's the name of the brewery. And if I'm gonna find music, I'm gonna find music, and I found it. So I have a listing, and this is some websites, kind of like what Dolan was just talking about. These are the top 10 Revolution songs.
Okay.
So songs about Revolution in different fashions, because these songs span 80 years on this list. So they're revolting against different things, right? But they're all like kind of all-time hit songs. And then there's also a few I thought of that aren't on this list that maybe we can talk about. But preface to that, here's 2 historical songs that are technically Revolution songs. Yankee Doodle. So that was sung by British troops in a mocking way against the colonists. But then the colonists took it back, and when they won the war, now it's like an American anthem. But when it was penned and like performed in the military, like at battles and stuff, it was making fun of it wasn't even the United States yet, but the colonists. So that was a Revolution song. And the other one, which I did not know about until I did this research, La Cucaracha. So that was written as like a protest song, basically, against the Mexican president Huerta at the time, Huerta. And they were basically depicting him as a cockroach. He was so bad to the people, and as a president or a ruler, that he was the lowest life form, which is a cockroach. And then Pancho Villa, who I think was, I guess, more or less the leader of the resistance, him and his army added lyrics, and they changed the lyrics to be sometimes about marijuana, which I found in my research. So a little pick me up for the battlefield, if you will.
Sure.
But those are 2 songs that you probably know that are Revolution adjacent. Here's the list of current or modern Revolution songs that some website had that I wrote down. Strange Fruit by Billie Holiday, 1939. This song came out. This song has been sampled by Kanye on his Yeezus album. But basically it's heavy. Like, it's basically about the strange fruit is when the person that's singing the song is seeing people hanging from a tree, black men hanging from a tree. And that's the strange fruit because they've been hung.
Wow.
So that's 1939. So that's 80, 90 years ago.
Lynching. Like actual, like, wow. Holy cow.
Yeah, I guess that's 80 years ago, right? Yeah, pretty much. And then This Land Is Your Land. We think is that some sort of happy song, but it was written as a protest song by Woody Guthrie in 1944, so middle of World War II. Masters of War, it's called, by Bob Dylan in 1963. Then in 1968, this is kind of Civil War stuff, or not Civil War, Civil Rights. James Brown, Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud. If you've heard that song, but that came out in 68. Then there's Ohio. I watched a documentary about this last night, I guess. Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. This was written hours after they started shooting up the campus. Was it Kent State, I think?
Kent State, yeah.
And those people, like 7 or 8 college kids got shot and killed. And so Neil Young went out into the woods. David Crosby said, you need to write about this song. And he did, came back, and it was one of their biggest hits. And also kind of the beginning of Neil's being involved in political songs. So it's kind of like the impetus of his political side of his catalog, which is about half, if you followed him ever since then.
Yeah.
Born in the USA, Bruce Springsteen, 1984. So that's the song. Basically, it's about a guy that came back from Vietnam and finds that his job is gone, and there's a economic crisis happening in the early 80s, and he can't find work. And they want to give him a job, but there just aren't any. And the story about that song is, I think it was Reagan wanted to use it as his like campaign song. And Bruce was like, you're everything against me, and you're the reason for the song. And you don't get it. It's more than just the chorus or the one line of the chorus. You can't use it. But he used it anyway, and they sued him, and Bruce Springsteen won. And then 1989, Fight the Power, Public Enemy.
Oh, man.
Which is probably you're in my wheelhouse, Rich. And then most currently, Kendrick Lamar has a song called All Right, 2015. The Butterfly album that makes the list and is like a modern day Revolution song. So there was another one I forgot, and I was going to see if you had any in your minds or anything floating around your playlist. But there's one called For What It's Worth. That was by the Buffalo Springfield, which was also Neil Young and Stephen Stills.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's a mid-60s song, but it's, basically like talking, actually think of name check the president and stuff too in it, but it's basically like the world's gone to shit and what are you going to do about it sort of stuff. So.
Which I'm somewhat surprised we haven't gotten anything recently like that. It always seems like music kind of follows the, current events, and we haven't yet. Maybe something's coming. I don't know.
Well, I would say that I think if you're talking about more recent stuff, you've got like Childish Gambino.
Yeah, This Is America or whatever.
This Is America.
Video. Yeah.
You have Kendrick Lamar's album, Damn, which came out in 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, I think it was a couple years ago. Yeah.
That's got a lot of good ones on there.
I guess it depends on where you're looking. And like the other thing, I was thinking about this today. Like I thought, okay, the 60s, a lot that was kind of like when protest songs were popular. Like it really was part of the popular music. But there also was very limited ways to get music then. Like you listen to the radio or you bought the record. That was it. And now you can stream music on 30 different sources. You got satellite radio with 1,000 channels. Some radio stations are still around, but not hardly anybody listens to it anymore. Podcasts, books, like it's just so watered down that it's hard for that sort of stuff to get through. It has to almost be a viral video. You know what I mean? Like it has to happen on the internet for it to come to the forefront nowadays. So it almost have to be something like performed at a protest that's happening currently that somebody caught on video that makes it, or
Yep.
flash, or something from The Voice. You know what I mean? Like that's where people get music nowadays. So it's, I think, a little bit harder to find that stuff. It's probably there, but it's just harder to like uncover it.
I'm surprised you didn't go straight to like the Beatles or
Revolution number 9. I thought about
Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan has a Revolution song.
Oh, he's got a bunch, but I think one of the best, and it's probably Revolution-ish, and it's the beginning of the Watchmen movie. Rich, with that whole sequence, you know what I'm talking about?
The end is the beginning is the end by the Smashing Pumpkins.
Yeah.
It's still a fantastic B-side. If you haven't read, or even, I mean, if you want, just take the easy way out, watch the movie, except for the last, 10 minutes. It doesn't end the same way. But yeah, Dr. Manhattan, and it's pretty great, and it's still very, very timely. Very timely. So,
I agree.
Yeah. So the end, was that what you got? Was that what's on music? Yeah. I was going to go a different way with Revolution.
All right.
Which is slightly more, maybe slightly more timely, maybe. Okay. And here's the tie back to baseball in Chicago. So the thing I think about when I think about Chicago baseball, I think about guys like Ron Santo and Anthony Rizzo and Chris Bryant or whatever. But then I think back to Ernie Banks.
Yeah.
The beginning of like that sort of baseball that I never got to see, but only, heard stories of or whatever. And Sweet Swingin' Billy Williams and
Fergie
Jenkins, who is still a great advocate for not only for baseball, but then for nonprofits in Chicago. The Fergie Jenkins Foundation does a ton in Chicago. None of that, and even going back to what we talked about last week in the St. Louis Cardinals, and probably one of the worst trades of all time, right? When we traded, why is his name escaping me right now? Probably because he was a Cardinal and he wasn't a Cub. He was only a Cub for a year. What was his name? I'm gonna look it up right now.
What time frame?
I'm talking about 1960s. Lou Brock.
Oh yeah.
When one of the worst trades of all time, when we traded Lou Brock to the Cardinals, which just tears my guts out even to this day, right? None of that would have been possible if it wasn't for one man who was a revolutionary of his time. And if you ever read his book is called At the Right Time. Like, he believes he came into baseball at the right time. He was tied into Kansas City baseball for so long. Buck O'Neil.
Buck O'Neil. The
Buck O'Neil.
They still have that.
Yeah, that lone red seat there at Kauffman Stadium. If it wasn't for Buck O'Neil, it would have. I think the whole integration, the Negro Leagues into baseball wouldn't have had nearly the power that it did. Buck O'Neil brought players to the major leagues that would never have had a chance otherwise.
And that should have been in the major leagues for, their whole career.
Forever. Yeah. He missed, I would argue he came too late. He should have come 10 years earlier, because then he could have brought other players. We would have a completely different take on baseball. If it was, Cool Papa Bell and guys like that, I love
Satchel Paige. He would have all the pitching records.
Absolutely. It wouldn't be called the Cy Young Award.
Yeah.
It'd be called the Satchel Paige Award.
Yeah.
I guarantee that.
And the museum wouldn't be in Kansas City. You know what I mean? Big.
If you've ever had a chance to go, if you're in Kansas City, if you ever have a chance, go down to that, like the Jazz District down there. I don't even know what it's called. But, there's a jazz museum. There's also the Negro Baseball Museum down there. And it is awesome and sad all at the same time that these guys never had a chance against big leaguers. Like, that's the Negro Leagues were a big league of their own, right? They really were, but they never ever had a chance against, from Babe Ruth on up. And I honestly, some of those guys would have dominated those guys.
I think that's probably one of the reasons they weren't allowed. You know what I mean?
Right. Yes.
And the other thing I forgot, I was going to tell you this last week, but I forgot to mention it. Just another good thing about Stan the Man was he like super advocated and was great friends with Jackie Robinson. Like he was like, yeah, this should be happening, and was all for it and was very vocal about it in the press. So another thing. I have a
feeling that Stan was probably one of those guys that was like iron sharpens iron, right? I mean, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Wanted to play against the best.
Yeah.
No matter who cares the color of their skin or their ethnicity or whatever, who cares? He wanted to play against the best.
He just loved ball, like they loved baseball, and that was what it was about. He, like, Stan took pay cuts, I think 4 or 5 times just so he could stay with the team. And then I think another thing I read about him that I don't think we talked about it in the episode. I have to listen to it or not, but he was like a big advocate for minor league players getting like fair pay and stuff. Like even if they never made it to the big leagues, like they've committed their life to the game and that sort of stuff. And he just loved baseball. Anybody that could play it, that's what he was about.
And that was Buck O'Neil as well. Buck loved the game and he loved everything about it. And that's he brought players to the majors. He brought 3 of which, right, was some of the greatest of all time: Ernie Banks, Lou Brock, Billy Williams. And
those are pretty good players.
That's a pretty solid group. As he was a scout, like he was scouting those guys and brought those guys to the major leagues. He was the first black manager in the major leagues. Like he broke through. And outside of the Midwest, I don't know if you know the name Buck O'Neil. Like if you didn't live in Chicago or Kansas City. Yeah,
I agree.
Do you know who that is? And you should, because if you're a baseball fan, he's responsible for a lot. And if you live in the world that I do, and love the team as much as I do, Buck is one of those guys that we couldn't have lived without. He wouldn't, there's that classic image of him as a manager with his leg up and he's leading on it and, looking out on the field. And that's when I think about baseball, that's one of the images I think about. I see in my head as, it would never have been possible if Buck wasn't the man that he was and pushed through. I'm sure he got called a shit ton of names.
Oh yeah.
None of them good.
Yep.
And he didn't care. He was like Jackie Robinson and guys like Ernie Banks and Lou Brock and those early players that they loved the game so much and they wanted to play. And it didn't matter. It didn't matter what they heard from the stands. And it's as revolutions go, that dude's right up there.
That's close to us.
Yeah.
As baseball fans and whatnot.
Yeah. Especially in the world we're living in right now with everything that's happening as we're recording this right now. Like, I can give all the credit to a lot of my fandom to guys like Buck O'Neil. So, and I'm sad every time I go. I've been to the Negro Baseball Museum a number of times, which is a fantastic place to go if you love history and the history of baseball. But then at the same time, you think, God damn it. These guys would have been, could you imagine watching some of these players against the major leaguers at the time? It would have been unbelievable. Just unbelievable. So I get super passionate about that one. That's
what we're here for.
That's a fun one for me. It's so important to understand where we came from, and baseball is one of those ties that I look back to all the time. It makes sense in my brain that it's how it was and how it played out and how it could have been so much different if it was just a little different,
just tweaked. It really is a reflection of the country. Like baseball really is that, and it is the pastime of America. And baseball, you have to sit there. You're in it for hours and hours, right?
Yep.
And you'll learn and back in the day, especially, you did the research there. You were the scorekeeper on your scorecard and all that sort of stuff. So I 100% agree with you. And history is one of those things, like a lot of people, especially now, even I feel younger than us, it's available to you to learn these things, but no one is doing it. Like we had to go search this out,
Yeah.
I was checking out books in the library in 5th grade to read about Lou Brock or Ted Williams or whoever. Right. So like that was something I couldn't just click on it on my phone in my pocket. You had to do some work. Yep. So maybe there's a little ownership there, but I don't know. It feels good to know that some of those things are still growing today. Like some of the things that started way back then are still there. And I don't know. It's important to realize where you come from.
Yep. Like that scene in 42. If you haven't seen 42, the Jackie Robinson story, where Pee Wee Reese is on the field and puts his arm around Jackie Robinson, like that was kind of a big deal. Like Pee Wee was kind of a racist for a while, more than kind of.
Yeah.
And
it seems trivial now. You know what I mean? Like, so what? But that was a huge step.
Huge step. That was a big step. And like we wouldn't have, if those things hadn't played out, if we hadn't had Jackie Robinson and Buck O'Neill and Lou Brock and Ernie Banks and Billy Williams, then we wouldn't have Juan Soto and Javier Baez and and guys like that. Now we wouldn't have those players. It wouldn't be a thing, and baseball wouldn't be the same, quite honestly.
I agree.
So that's my tie back to baseball, Forrest. That's what I was excited. I'm super excited. We talked about comic books and movies, but that's tying back to baseball too made me happy.
Luckily, all those players were Cub names you mentioned mostly, so that worked out good for you.
There we go. That works out. So yeah, and Buck O'Neill, you can't deny what he did for Kansas City too. Like he was a big figure in Kansas City from a historical standpoint too. So,
and just in case you don't know, maybe Dolan is one of these people that doesn't watch every Royals game like I do. Mm-hmm. But the Buck O'Neill seat in Kansas City, it's a pretty good seat, and it's reserved every game for somebody from the community that does good in the community. So if you're volunteer baseball coach, or you've been the organist at your church for 40 years, or you do a after school program for inner city youth, like whatever that is, you get nominated and then you win this award and you get to sit in these great seats. There's 2 of them. And they call your name out and you get to stand up and wave to the TV, and every game it's somebody different that's local, that's done something good in the community, and just a way to honor him and his name. And it's always something fun to see if you're watching the games.
So Untapped, I'm gonna go with just regular AntiHero.
Yeah, I bet it's got thousands of check-ins.
179,000.
Yeah,
I mean that's getting up there with some of the big boys, right?
Yeah,
I mean that is getting up there. You, Brian, have never checked in, ain't you?
Really? I've had it before, but I've never checked it in. Okay.
So Atlas Traveler Brandon Younts has checked it in before at a 3.25. He said it was a hot bomb, bitter long finish. Traditional IPA in the world of disappearing old school IPAs.
Yeah.
Good.
I agree with everything he said, but I'd rate it a 4.
You know what? I have gone a 4 on this actually as well.
There you go.
Yeah. Let's see. My friend from middle school Corey Jackson, rated this a 4. So little known fact, Corey Jackson was with me the night that I was with him when we bought Tomax and Zaymont from G.I. Joe.
Oh.
We rode our bikes to the Alco and we bought G.I. Joes. I'll never forget it, Corey. I love it. I'll never forget it. Atlas Traveler Daniel Chavez has checked it in twice at a 3.75 and a 3.75. So one time he purchased it at the Outback. So he must have been in Illinois.
Oh, yeah. You have to be local to get that on tap.
I guess, yeah. Yeah, I my first time checking it in, sadly, back in 2009, I rated it a 2.75, and I said it was overhyped.
Maybe your attitude has changed.
I didn't know back then. I didn't know. I would give it a solid 4 right now. So
that sounds good.
179,000 check-ins. I'm sorry. Where do you think it ranks?
3.76.
Dolan?
I don't know. I've never had it. I've never had it.
There's one back in the fridge. I might get that for you.
All right.
Brian, you're close. 3.84.
Yeah.
Darn close. So 179,000 at a 3.84 is pretty darn good.
Dolan, tell us about yours. How did it finish up?
The Galaxy Hero. I I mean, it was, if you're looking for a hazy IPA, it was everything a hazy IPA should be. It was great. Like I said in the beginning, it very tropical. You know, it's like you took a bunch of tropical fruits and mixed it all together and made a beer out of it, and it was good. It was great. I think if I were to untap it, I'd rate it probably a 3.75.
Fair.
Yeah, it's not the greatest hazy I've ever had, but it's definitely I would not be disappointed by any means if I asked for a hazy IPA and I got this in a glass.
Nice.
So,
what about you, Rich?
You know, it was an interesting. I've never had that strain of hops before. Clearly, it's all gone.
Oh yeah,
it's
that's
none
a
of
good
it's
sign.
left. Yeah, I would order that again. It's interesting how, because there's the ghost of AntiHero was there, like you could tell, like it was there, but with that different hops. And yeah, I honestly, I think as I go, I would probably, if I had a choice, like if the taps were in front of me, if I were in Chicago, getting ready to go to a Cubs game, and I'm sitting across the street at the Cubby Bear, and they have a whole, like, you know, they have a couple handles there of Revolution, and you know, then some Goose Island or whatever else down the way. I would probably order Galaxy first because that sounds like my jam.
Yeah.
I would order this second, and then I would order AntiHero third because it's just that's just how it goes.
Can you show the artwork on that can again? I haven't.
Yeah, that's so it's almost like a, see how he's kind of. It's almost like a Spider-Man.
Yeah, I was gonna say it looks like Spider-Man.
Or like an assassin, like Assassin's Creed, maybe.
Maybe, yeah. Notice his, you know, all of them. The face is the hops, right? I mean, with AntiHero, he's got the eye patch, and yours is in the That's pretty consistent through Revolution's branding and marketing there with their cans. So that's what I would do. Maybe I'm just dreaming about baseball and wishing I could be across the street, you know, waiting to hear the national anthem so I know it's time for me to go in.
I feel like we're going to have 15 baseball episodes this year.
Maybe.
I hope, and I'm down for that. If we can't watch it, we might as well talk about it.
Right. And I guess maybe, who knows, our audience has never told us, no, we don't like when you talk about baseball. Maybe, you know, at some point they'll be like, we're too much baseball, talk about hockey instead or something. I don't know.
I hope not.
Yeah. But yeah, this was a fun trip, especially a fun trip to Chicago. Has it on the blue line at the Belmont stop.
Yeah, don't get off early or late. Just get off there. The blue line stop.
Hopefully there's a nice old dude that's going to tell you that you fellers need to turn around and get back.
Go back, yes.
Yeah. Well, Brian, we're not going anywhere for a while.
Let's have another beer.
Thank you for listening to A Beer with Atlas. Special thanks to our brand team for producing the show. Each episode of A Beer with Atlas is powered by Atlas MedStaff, an industry leader in travel healthcare staffing.